Welcome to the Collide Kids Podcast, hosted by Christen Clark. This is a show for kids and families. You are going to meet new people and have fun while you listen. Let's do it!
Hey, y'all. Welcome back to the Collide Kids Podcast. I'm your host, Christen Clark. The Collide Kids Podcast is a show for kids and families where we learn together how life and faith collide. It is so great to have you listening today. Thank you so much for being here and spending this time with me. This season, we're introducing a brand new segment. It's called Let's Talk About It. So in this fun part of the show, I'm going to ask 3 questions. So some of the questions might be silly or imaginative or deep, and some will be faith-filled, but they're all designed to spark some great family conversations. So be sure to stick around until the end of the interview for that. Well, I can't believe this, but we are just a few episodes away from 200 episodes. Can you believe it? There's been 200 Collide Kids Podcast episodes, and it is so amazing to think back through all the guests and all the fun friends I've had on here. Well, for the 200th episode, I have some fun surprises planned for that, including not 1, but 2 giveaways. That's right, 2. So when we did 100 episode celebration, I had 1 big giveaway. So this time, I'm going to have 2. So stay tuned this month by following us on social media to learn more about how you can win one of those amazing prize packs. It's awesome. I can't wait to share it with you. Okay, so have you ever watched a movie that made you laugh, cry, or even think about God in a new way? Movies are such a fun way to tell stories, and today we're talking about movies made for families like yours. But before we get to meet our special guest, let's play a quick round of movie trivia. I'll ask you a question, and then you try to guess the answer before the buzzer goes off. Here we go. Ready? Okay, here's the first one. What were the names of the 2 best friends in Toy Story? That's right. Woody and Buzz Lightyear. I have to tell you, I almost said Buzzy and Wood, but that's not right. It's Woody and Buzz Lightyear. Okay, here's number 2. What vegetable-themed characters love to tell Bible stories? Yep, the answer is VeggieTales. You got it right. Good job. All right, here's the next one. In Finding Nemo, what kind of fish is Nemo? That's right. He's a clownfish. That's my favorite line in the movie. For a clownfish, he's not that funny. All right, here's number 4. In the movie Paddington, what kind of animal is Paddington? Well, if you guessed bear, you're correct. He was a bear. He was a cute little bear, too. Okay, here's number 5. In Facing the Giants, what sport does the main character, Coach Grant Taylor, coach? Well, if you said football, great job. You are correct. All right, I got another one for you. In Charlotte's Web, what is the name of the pig that Charlotte the Spider helps? It's Wilbur. I love Wilbur. Oh, that's a good one. How you doing so far? All right, I got one more for you. Let's see how you do. What adventurous film series follows 4 siblings as they enter a magical land called Narnia? Oh, I gave it away. The answer was in the question. It's The Chronicles of Narnia. Those are great movies. I love those, and great books as well. See, movies are such a cool way to learn and have fun, and today's guest knows all about how faith and films go together. My guest today is Dave Almgren. He is a marketing consultant, pastor, and entrepreneur with a passion for faith-based films. As the leader of the advanced team, he has helped market over 70 faith-based movies, contributing to a combined box office of more than $600 million. That's a lot. He works with churches, pastors, and homeschool communities to build support for Christian films and has collaborated with major studios like Affirm Films, Provident Films, and Sony Pictures. Before his career in film marketing, David owned a toy store for 15 years. How fun is that? Where he creatively merged ministry and business by hosting VeggieTales movie events. With over 20 years of pastoral experience, he understands how to connect films with faith communities in meaningful ways. He's also the co-host of Two Pastors, Popcorn, and a Movie, a fun podcast where he shares insights on faith and film. Listen, if you're a big fan of movies, you're going to love this episode. So here's my conversation with Dave Almgren. Dave Almgren, I am so excited to have you on the Collide Kids podcast today.
Hey, excited to be here as well.
I'm so excited. I think it's going to be so fun. Would you just introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Dave Almgren from Portland, Oregon, married 30 years. I have 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl. I have a daughter with lives with Down syndrome, so she is a special individual in our lives. Been in ministry in some form or fashion, since 1983. Was a children's pastor, a church planter, junior high pastor, which I think is one of the best jobs. Well, that and kids pastor, they're like, they're pretty close.
Good. Yeah.
Because you get to have all kinds of fun. About 2000, I started a toy store. Went from being a children's pastor to start a toy store selling VeggieTale products. Any VeggieTale fans out there?
Woo, that's me.
Maybe a few. Whoop, whoop. If you like to talk to...
there you go. I'll let you do that.
Man, I jumped in 2008 from retail toy store to working in the film industry, and I've worked on 70 plus campaigns. From the first movie I worked on was, of course, the VeggieTale movie, The Pirates That Don't Do Anything.
Love that movie.
Song we could sing.
Yeah.
Yes. Hilarious movie. If you haven't seen that one, parents, kids that are watching, you got to go. I'm sure it's on all the streaming.
Oh,
the
definitely.
Pirates That Don't Do Anything.
Yeah, that's great.
That and Jonah, classic movies. So since 2008, I've worked in the faith film space. Movies that would be great for the family that I worked on are The Star, Breakthrough, Mom's Night Out, and currently working on a movie called The King of Kings, a story told by Charles Dickens.
Yeah.
In theaters April 11th. Awesome film. Wonderful movie for families.
Okay, before we get into your story, because this is a show for kids, I always ask my guests to tell me a joke.
I got 2, but they're short. All right. So,
okay.
All right. Here we go. So what do you call a cow who can't make milk?
I don't know.
An udder failure or a milk dud.
Or a milk dud. Oh, that's good. It's 2 punchlines.
Yeah, 2 punchlines.
I love it.
All right, second one. Hey, where do cows go on Friday nights?
Is that to the movies?
Good job. Yeah, I figured that was the theme here with movies. We're talking about movies. Yeah. To the movies.
We'll be right back after this. Raising kids in the digital age isn't easy, but Bark Technology makes products that help parents keep their kids safe online and in real life. They have an app, a phone, and a home device that lets families set parental controls on their internet-connected devices. I love the app because it helps us manage screen time and blocks websites and apps we want our kids to avoid. It also sends alerts and gives us the ability to monitor texts and social media and even track your child's location. Visit bark.us to learn more about how you can keep your kids safe online. Use the code COLLIDEKIDS to get 15% off your subscription of the Bark app.
Okay, so let's start with you were a kids pastor, which is great. That's a great profession. And then you moved into having a toy store. Where did that come from?
Yeah, gosh, I have a degree in biblical theology. So where I am at today, I never thought I would be where I am or even the path to get here. So I was a kids pastor in Portland, at Portland Foursquare Church. And had this space on the second floor, and I thought, hey, that'd make a good bookstore. Maybe I could start bringing in, Bibles and some product for families, and provide some resources, and maybe we can help fund camp or something like that. And so that's where it kind of started.
Okay.
It was the beginning of VeggieTales, and There was a whole series on race cars and Bible Man and a few other products, that we brought in. So that was kind of the beginning of the inception of how the idea started. And then I left that particular church and I thought, you know what? Let's start a web store and see how that goes and focus on VeggieTale product. In 1993 was when a 2-page ad came out in Children's Ministry magazine, and there was this ad for a new VHS series called VeggieTales, Where's God When I'm Scared? So they made 500. I think I own one of those first 500 episodes.
Wow.
But as it just blew up, there were all these VeggieTale products. And so I thought, hey, let's put them under one roof on a website. And it just exploded and took off, did really well, opened up a store front the next year. And it was it was a blast. It felt like, okay, I'm no longer a children's pastor at a church, but I was a children's pastor working with families and to share and minister to people that wouldn't necessarily darken the door of a church, but they were coming through our door. They were calling me, and I was able to minister to folks and minister to families and parents, and through silly songs with Larry and Bible Man product and Bob the Builder and the Wiggles and all kinds of products. And it was a great fun time because you got to play with toys and watch videos all day.
I mean, that's every kid's dream, is to own a toy store and just get to play with stuff all day, so that's so fun that you got to do that. And I love that you figured out a way. You're like, wow, we're still doing ministry, but it's not inside a church building. Because I think a lot of times we think the way that I can serve God is at church. And you can. That's a good place to start. But there's also places where you can serve God like at a toy store. And so I love that you had that opportunity. So this carried over into you getting involved with lots of different films. How did that start? How did that connect?
We'd go to trade shows to research and buy toys and what's going to be hot the next time around, the next Christmas. So, ran into a guy that I had known for a couple of years from trade shows, and he said he was started a company called Sermon Cinema. Preach always, use film when necessary, as a kind of a little play on St. Francis of Assisi. So he said, hey, I'm working on this new movie, the VeggieTale Pirates movie. And I said, man, are you looking to expand your team? And it gave me an opportunity to exit out of the retail full time and to jump into something that was a little bit different, but the same in some senses, because I was still dealing with VeggieTale fans and customers and the ministry piece of it, as I was primarily working with pastors and, building awareness for films like the VeggieTale Pirates movie. So, it was the first of, I thought, gosh, maybe this is one or two films projects, and it's ended up being a career now of 17 years and 70 plus projects.
Wow.
And I mean, you name the film, and I've probably been on that team. This last year, wow, I had a blast working on the best Christmas pageant ever. Any families out there see that one?
Yeah, that's so fun.
The best Christmas pageant ever. That was a wonderful movie. And some of the movies I'd worked on over the years tended to be, hospital type stories or an illness. And so it was refreshing to work on the best Christmas pageant ever, because it was funny and poignant, but on the nose with a great message, would bring you some hope and joy at the end of the film. That was a blast to work on. And Mom's Night Out with Patricia Heaton.
Love that movie. That was a great one.
Yes. Actually, I was talking to Patricia because I've heard from the Irwins, they've talked about, we should do a sequel. And so I said, hey, Patricia, I hear there's a rumor. And she goes, oh, yeah, they keep talking, but till there's a check in hand, I'm not believing it. But I think that would be a great sequel. Where would they go? Hawaii, Italy, who knows?
Yes. I mean, I would do it if it was in Greece or Italy or, a location one. That'd be perfect. I wasn't expecting it to be as funny as it was, because I don't feel like a lot of Christian movies are so funny. It was hilarious. It was so good.
You know what one of the audience favorites was in that movie? Trace Adkins.
Oh, yeah. I forgot he was in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
he was so good. Yes.
You saw this big, tough guy, and then where'd that come from?
how are you involved in the movie? Like, are you on the production team? Are you helping with marketing? What's your role in helping get these movies out?
Typically on the marketing side of it. So, audience engagement with churches, working with conferences like the King of Kings. I was at CPC. We were one of the sponsors for the conference. And so we're just trying to build awareness and make connections with pastors and build relationships, for this film. And I think I've kind of become, at least at CPC, the film guy, because I've been bringing films for like 10 years.
Yeah.
And before I used to be known as hey, you're the veggie guy, VeggieTales guy in Portland. I'm proud.
That's not a bad title.
No, that's a proud hat to wear, a VeggieTale hat. But it's also, it's fun to wear that hat in the films because, films have impact. Story has impact. We could just go through and, say a few phrases and you'd remember what movie they came from. Like, I'll be back.
Oh yeah. From Terminator.
Yeah. So, we remember those things, right? So they make an impact, they make an impression. God created the universe. He created you and me. He's a creator. I believe that we are to be creators as well in what we do in our daily lives. And if you look at history, the church led the way on creativity with arts, with media, with everything. And we abandoned that for so many years. And I think, if you're a young person, explore the arts, explore your creativity. And I think we were talking before about creativity when I was little, man, I'd come home from preschool, and I don't know why I remember this, but it just sticks in my head. I'd come home and I'd have an idea every day, and I probably drove my parents crazy because I wanted to build something, and they're probably like, you can buy that at the store. But I had this, no, but I can build it. I can build it. And then I got into grade school, and I remember I built a puppet stage, and I wanted to take it to school and do this puppet play with Bert and Ernie and the Cookie Monster, and Cookie Monster was Godzilla. And then somebody made fun of me, and it just crushed me. And I think it stifled that outflow of creativity. Man, just if you're a kid, be creative. Don't worry about what somebody else says. Let God flow through you with creativity. And parents, encourage the creativity in your kids.
Yeah. And I think one way parents can encourage creativity in their kids is by demonstrating how you are being creative. There's lots of ways that we can be creative, and it's okay if you want to sit down with your kids and color in a coloring book together, or, show your kids what it looks like to be creative and put things together. Or I just think that's such an easy way for us to demonstrate that and help them to see how important it is in our life and why it could be important in theirs. I also think it's interesting that, I don't think a lot of people think about what it takes to get a movie out there.
It's a miracle for any movie, good or bad, to be made and to find a home. And so in a movie like Best Christmas Pageant Ever, they were sitting on the rights trying to make that movie. It was like 15 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a long haul to get to the place where, okay, let's make the movie. We mentioned The King of Kings, which comes out April 11th, a story told by Charles Dickens. That started as a story in the early 19th century. Charles Dickens wrote the story for his kids to share the gospel with them, and he passed away. And then in 1934, his kids published it as a book called The Life of Our Lord. And then decades later, some believers in Seoul, Korea in 2015 said, we should make a movie about this to share the gospel and to wrap it in a storytelling model with Charles Dickens. And they've been working on it since 2015, and now it's 2025, and it's coming to theaters.
Wow.
So, it's a long, long road.
Yeah.
In this case as well. So this movie is spectacular. It's probably the best presentation from Bethlehem to the Great Commission that I've seen. And it's fun. It's funny. There's some comic relief, but it stays true to the gospel and the story. And it's what we call a 4-quadrant movie, where it's for the entire family.
I love that. And I love this coming out right before Easter, because I think that's such a great time for us to reflect on what Christ has done for us and all that. And then told in the storyline from Charles Dickens. I didn't know that he wrote this book.
Not many do, but there's a lot of gems out there, a lot of stories to be told. Kids that are watching, you may be a aspiring filmmaker, and you're shooting films with your iPhone, which has more capabilities than that old VHS. Remember the VHS cameras?
Yes. And it would make your shoulder hurt because it would like dig in a little bit.
Yeah,
It was so
yeah.
heavy.
There's some kids watching. Man, if you want to tell stories, tell your story. Use your phone. Use the resources you have, and be creative, and allow those things to flow out of you, because the world is waiting for those stories to be heard and to be told.
And I think that's another great thing to encourage parents is to think about what are the things that your kids like to do and really just encourage them in that, even if it's a little quirky.
Hey, you got to start somewhere. I mean,
That's right.
the Irwin brothers, who are part of Kingdom Story Company, and the Kendricks brothers, who did War Room and Overcomer. I mean, that's how they started as kids, just doing silly videos and telling stories and learning their craft.
What is something that you've learned about your faith in God or your relationship with God through your job as a movie marketing person?
I think a lot of guys are like me, but we like to plan and we want to be a provider. And so in that, I'd like to know what's around the corner. And that's not always the case, because you're working project to project and you don't always know. You don't always have the security that you would have in a 9-to-5. And so one thing that I've learned, that God always shows up on time. Not always my time, but he shows up on time, and he has shown himself faithful. And I've learned that, but I don't know if I've always put it into practice on being able to remember that lesson, so that, okay, God took care of me last year. He'll take care of me this year. I have to be reminded of that, but it's a lesson that is there. It just has to be, probably need to write it on the walls and on my laptop, and to remind myself that, I guess the Israelites did it too when they built monuments. It was to remember.
Right.
So I need to build a monument that I see every day.
There you go. Maybe you can make it into like a movie poster or something, so it looks like something like a movie.
A friend of mine that I work with, he encourages me to, okay, remember this when, write it down. And when you're bummed out, go look at those and read them.
Yeah.
So this is a good reminder of that.
I had a friend share with me too that they had a jar in the middle of their dining room table, and anytime something good happened to them, God answered a prayer, something they're thankful for that day. Maybe they just had a good hair day, or like got new shoes. They would write it down on a little piece of paper and put it in the jar. And then at Thanksgiving, they would spend time opening the jar and going through all the things that God had done for them that year. And I thought that's such a neat idea. And then just to watch that jar fill up throughout the year. So maybe you need a jar.
Yeah.
Well, Dave, this has been so fun. I've loved learning about your job and all the different things that you've done and all the VeggieTale things that you've been involved in. I think that's so fun. So thank you so much for being on this show. Now you have a podcast. Let's talk about that for a minute. Tell us about your podcast.
Yeah, it's called Two Pastors, Popcorn, and a Movie Podcast. So I'm David 503, and my co-host is David 808. He hails from Waikiki in Hawaii. So he's got a much better view than I do. We do interviews and talk to actors, directors on upcoming projects. And when there isn't an upcoming project, we'll go back in the vault and find a film that's, worthy of a second look, and see if we can set up an interview and talk about it and inform our audience, about the great content that's out there, and great for families. And just recently we were able to expand a little bit. We were on the red carpet last week for The Chosen Season 5. So we did some interviews with Jonathan Rumi, Dallas Jenkins, and some of the disciples, and Mary, Elizabeth Tavish. So we're trying to branch out a little bit where our content is more than just talking heads, but we're out in the field and sharing content with families. So yeah, Two Pastors, Popcorn, and a Movie.
Well, that's awesome. Okay, I love that. So definitely, listeners, go check out his podcast and you can learn more about movies. I think that's a great way to learn about movies, because we're always looking for recommendations, especially for family-friendly stuff. So yeah, that's a great place to check that out. Well, this has been so fun. Thanks so much for being on the show. Before I let you go, I always ask my guests to tell me a memory from when they were a kid. So do you have a memory you want to share with us today?
We used to always go to the beach. I love the beach. But as an adult, I love Kailua Beach in Hawaii where the water's warm. But as a kid, we always used to go to Cannon Beach and the water was so cold, but it was beautiful. So I remember we'd go there and we'd camp. We'd have our camper right next to the river, and I'd brave out into the murky water and try to have a good time and swim and come out freezing. But that was always a fun time with sisters and mom and dad, and riding up in the camper, in the camper above the truck when you're driving down the road. And I don't know if you can do that legally now, but that was a fun memory as a kid doing that, numerous times a summer, going to the beach with family and wading across the river and, going to get taffy and ice cream and it was good memories.
That's awesome. I love that. Whenever my family would go to the beach, we would go to a place to eat breakfast before. And then as we're finishing up breakfast, we'd be planning where we're going to go for lunch. And then we'll be planning what we're going to eat for dinner or what we're going to have on the beach for a barbecue or so we were always, that's my memory of the beach, is always eating. Well, Dave, thanks so much for taking the time to be on the Collide Kids podcast today. It was great having you. And go check out the movie King of Kings coming out this week, April 11th.
Amen.
Wow. Dave has had some really cool jobs in his life. He's owned a toy store. He's been a kids pastor. He's been around all these different movie stars and helped make movies get out into the world. I just love that God was able to use Dave throughout his life to minister to families at the church he worked at and then at the toy store, which led him to ministering to so many families through the films that he promoted. I love when Dave said that God is creative, and so we are to be creative. If you look at church history, the church led the way in creativity and the arts. Dave encouraged us to be creative. Don't worry about what other people think or say. Just let God flow through you. The world might be waiting for the story that's inside you. He also said it's good to have reminders everywhere to help us think back to the times that God took care of us. So just like he did before, he can do again. In the Bible, the Israelites built monuments to remind them how God had provided for them or helped them in a battle. We can do that too in our homes, in our community, in our car. I have a few monuments in my home. Like I have a word picture on my wall by the front door. I have a Bible verse on a cling sticker in my bathroom, and I have a small brass lion on my desk. All of these remind me of something that God has done or taught me to help me remember who he is and what he can do for me in the future. Such good encouragement. Well, if you'd like to learn more about the King of Kings film that's coming out this week, head over to angel.com and you can look to see when it's playing in your community. And you can also head over to faithandfamilyfilms.info to learn more about Dave and his podcast and his information about all the films that he's covered. Well, now it's time for a really fun part of the show. It's our family discussion segment. This is where I'm going to ask a few fun and thoughtful questions to help keep the conversation going. So you can pause after each question to talk about it together now, or listen to all the questions and then chat about them later, whatever works best for your family. So let's talk about it. Movie time is always more fun with a treat. So what is your favorite movie snack or treat to enjoy during a family movie night? And why do you love it? Here's number 2. Dave shared today that God used his creativity in different ways throughout his life, from church ministry to running a toy store to promoting films. How do you see God using your creativity? And what are some ways that you can use your talents to serve others? Then number 3, in the Bible, the Israelites built monuments to remember how God provided for them. What are some reminders or monuments that you can create in your own life to remind you that God will take care of you? Or maybe you already have some set up and you can talk about what they mean. Well, I hope this sparks some fun conversations for you and your family. Now, listen, if you have been listening to the Collide Kids podcast for a long time, you know that we used to have a segment on here called the Kids Only segment. That's where you could send in your favorite Bible verse or joke, and you, kids, got to be on the show. But we've moved that over to our YouTube channel. So if you would like to be on an episode of the Collide Kids podcast on our YouTube channel, I would love to hear your favorite joke or Bible verse or song. So head over to my website, collidekidspodcast.com, and click the tab that says Kids Only, and you can find information about how to send that to me. And while you're on the website, be sure to sign up for our newsletter. That'll definitely give you some more information about the giveaway. And hey, if you're on social media, I would love for you to follow us on Facebook at the Collide Kids Podcast or on Instagram at Collide Kids Pod, and share today's episode with someone who might need to hear it. Also, if you're interested in supporting the podcast, a great way to do that is to leave a rating and a review. It really does help other people find out about the show. And I'd love to hear what you think about it, especially about today's episode. Well, I hope you guys have a great week. Thanks so much for listening, and thank you for participating and getting us to 200 episodes. This is so awesome. I'm looking forward to sharing more surprises and more information with you very soon. But until then, in case no one has told you today, I would love to be the first to remind you that God loves you so much. Thanks for listening.
You don't have to go very far looking for bad news because somehow it just finds you. So finding peace in the chaos can be really difficult, but it doesn't have to be because the River mobile app exists. The River is a Christian music radio station dedicated to playing music to help you get through life's toughest moments or life's happiest moments and everywhere in between. And all from artists who love Jesus and are real people just like you. Listening is easy. You can download it wherever you get apps from. Just search 1049 The River or listen online at riverradio.com. And know that The River is proud to partner with the Collide Kids Podcast.